time to clean the Kustom CS from an earlier unboxing video. So the first step you'll want to do is grab your cleaning solution, pop a little bit of it in the cup, and then either use your finger. If you've got the nozzle cap and needle cap in place, you can just use your finger to cover the end. Failing that, grab a cloth, cover the end, then push down for a little bit of air and then slowly pull back to bubble up. That sends some of the cleaning solution through the channel into the cup, making sure that you get the paint come back into the cup. When you've got that, just dump it out, and then you can either repeat the process or pop a little bit more cleaner in, and then with your brush, get into the cup and give it a good old work around, making sure you get all around the edges, because you want to make sure that any of the paint that's on the sides doesn't end up drying and staying there. Now once you've done that, it's very important, this gets dumped out. You do not want to send that through the channel, because otherwise you're potentially sending dry paint flecks through the channel again. So we're going to do one more quick bubble back. So cover the nozzle, bubble up, dump it out, and then again with the brush, give it a once over, and then pop a little bit more of the cleaning solution, and then with your spray out pot, you just spray it through until it's emptied the cup, and then you should have a nice clean cup. The outside's fine, we'll deal with that shortly. I'll move these out of the way. So the next thing we're going to do is disconnect it from the air supply. We do not need to be sending any air through it. We're going to take off the moisture trap and put that to one side. Now, as I pointed out during the unboxing video, when you're doing lots of spraying with lots of different colours and you've done a colour change flush through, you don't actually need to take this completely apart to get the needle out. You just need to loosen the chucking nut and then you can pull the needle out the back. For the purposes of this, we're doing a full pack away clean, which means we need to completely dismantle the airbrush. So first we take off the back cover, take the needle out, unscrew the chucking nut all the way. Then we take off the spring guide. And out with it comes so we have spring guide, spring and chucking guide. Then we take the trigger out and pop that down, and then we have our airbrush body. Now some of the more astute of you will notice that I haven't taken off the needle cap and the nozzle cap. That is because, generally speaking, there is no need to take these off in order to clean your airbrush. It's worth taking them off if you want to check to make sure there has been no blowback or bubble back and there's no paint inside there, which there is not. So there's no paint, no paint. So we're going to pop it back, because the most important thing to do is protecting your nozzle here, because that's very small and not cheap to replace. If you ever do need to replace the needle on this airbrush, or the nozzle I should say, unscrew it here. This hex nut here has a spanner that came in the box, but generally those will be hand tightened, so you can unscrew it. And one of the great things with the Eclipse series is they have a floating nozzle, so you can just literally pop that off and replace it. For cleaning purposes, you should not ever need to remove the nozzle. Doing so just invites the possibility of getting damage to it, and broken nozzle means broken airbrush. So what I'm going to do first of all is get a can of our liquid reamer, Premier liquid reamer. This stuff is absolutely dynamite. So what I'm going to do first of all is pop a little bit of this through into the cup. If you put the straw right to the end and give it a quick spritz, that coming straight through means that there is no blockage in the cup. You don't want just to put a little bit in, and then again with your brush, there it is, give it a bit of a workaround and usually making the opportunity to get some of that reamer onto the paint on the side. Then with your cloth, just move it around. Any excess in there, dump it out. Pop a little bit of your normal cleaner, again with your brush, just to neutralise any of that liquid reamer, because we don't want the liquid reamer to sit in the airbrush. So for the time being, this bit's put to one side. What we want to do now is grab another clean cloth, pop a little bit of our liquid reamer on, and then with our needle, place it flat in the cloth and pinch the needle at the base, making sure that you have a patch of reamer either side of it. And then slowly twist the needle side to side while pulling it back through that liquid reamer to make sure that any and all paint traces on the needle are completely gone. Because if there is dry paint on the needle, there'll be dry paint in your nozzle. And as we learned earlier, if you put dry paint through your nozzle, you are very likely to block it. So we're going to pop a little bit of the reamer through the chucking guide, because when you've got paint on your needle and you pull your needle out, it passes through the chucking guide and any paint that's in there will transfer. Just as a point of order, to give you an idea of how much paint was on the needle, that is what was taken off just then when we cleaned it. Finally, you just want to inspect to make sure if you've had a particularly heavy paint session, you can sometimes get some paint come back through the cup into the body of the airbrush. In this instance, that hasn't happened, so we are good to go. But if you need to, just with a cotton bud, get a little bit of the cleaner on, work inside. You can do the same thing on the finer points. One thing that's also quite good to do is you get a bit of the cleaner or the reamer on there and you use this just to go around your nozzle cap, making sure that you're getting around the edges, taking any paint off, but there's very little on there, which is brilliant. Pop that down. So next thing we have to do is put it back together. So the first thing, we want to put our trigger in. Before we put our trigger back, we want to get a little bit of our Iwata lube, just the tiniest of tiny dots just on the end of the piston there. And then, this is going to be the fun bit, doing this while recording. Can I get it into the piston housing first time? You can. Once it's in there, just give it a little few up and downs just to work that lubricant into the piston housing to make sure that stays running smooth. Next, we want to put in our chucking guide. You push the bottom of it forwards, so then it's sticking forward like that, and you put it in at the boot, foot in a boot, put the spring over the top, and then you want to put the spring guide onto there. Before you put the spring guide on, what you'll want to do is, in order to protect the seal and maintain decent moving parts when it comes to having to unscrew it again, put a little bit of the Medea beeswax thread sealant around the edge there, and then put the needle, the chucking guide over there, just screw the spring guide in. Again, with all of these bits, that anything that screws on, you want to do it hand tight. Any tighter than that and you are going to cause issues with using the airbrush. We then next just put the chucking nut on just a half turn. And one thing I will do with this particular one, as we've got the cutaway at the back, is to put this on before the needle, because this will actually help you guide the needle in more securely. So we put the back of the airbrush on and tighten. Again, doesn't need to be tight, it just needs to be sealed. We have an O-ring here, so as long as that is engaged, we are good to go. And then we just follow that channel through and put the needle in. And then, very importantly, tighten up the chucking nut until that is secure. The best way to check that's been done right is the needle pops out the back. Once we are done there, just inspect the exterior. If necessary, give it another little spray with a little bit of liquid reamer, and then polish with a cloth. And that is a lovely, clean Kustom CS.